Hey everybody, what's up? This is David here again on Testimony Tuesdays for Love Everyone. We're so glad for y'all checking us out and hanging out with us this evening. Um, Great things have been going on in the group. We continue to grow rapidly. God's really moving and ministering through this. I'm just so happy to be a part of this ministry and just out here just sharing the love of Jesus, you know. And tonight we got another great story from my friend Jesse here, who goes to the same church here at the Tree of Life here in Naples. And I just want to pray, and I'm just we got some people clicking on now. I really appreciate the support. Thank you, Jesus, so much for this time. Thank you so much for the miracles that you do in our lives, Lord. Thank you so much for Jesse coming and wanting to share with us. I just pray that you speak through here and that you will just have the hearts be opened of the people who watch this either live or later on, Lord, and that you just your message will be preached, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, Jesse, thanks a lot.
Thank you. Hi guys, how you doing? So my name is Jasenia, and sorry if my story's a little bit everywhere. I'm a little bit ADD, so I'll try to keep my focus. So my story begins. I was actually born in Miami, Florida in 1977. My parents they escaped Cuba when they were younger, separately, and met up here in the States and started dating. And they were kind of in the party lifestyle, doing a lot of crazy things as people did in the 70s. And I say I'm a 70s baby, right? I'm a result of the 70s. So blah blah blah. My parents, so when I was born, they were very active in their lifestyle. My parents were active addiction, and they were swingers. So I saw a lot of things that children my age probably shouldn't have been witness to. I can remember the first time that I smoked pot. I was 6 years old. My parents were partying, and us kids were running around as usual, and one of their friends happened to pass me and my brother a joint, and we just became accustomed to it. Later on, as you probably know, during all of that, life was pretty chaotic. There was a lot of fighting, a lot of just hostility in the home once the partying was done, and me and my siblings got to witness that also. So my parents ended up splitting up when I was 4 years old, and they each went on their own path of partying lifestyle. My dad left my mom for one of the women they were swinging with, so that was obviously traumatic, and my mom never let us forget that. And my mom turned to women, so I was either at my dad's house where he was swinging with his new wife, or I was at with my mom, and she was doing her partying lifestyle. And during all of that, me and my siblings were unsupervised, so we pretty much got to do whatever we wanted. As the partying was happening, the kids ourselves, would have a party on our own. And during all that lifestyle, I was exposed to things sexually as a child that confused me. I was molested by one of my mom's girlfriends, and she would have me and another little girl fool around. So that started that walk where I just lived confused most of my life, and I chalked that up to the enemy trying to destroy me from day one. So went on to just living pretty chaotic. I started running the streets with my brother and joined a gang at a very young age. By the time I was 12 years old, I had probably tried every single drug there is. I did things that I wasn't very proud of, and that kind of kept me in that lifestyle. I didn't pay attention to my schooling. I dropped out of school 6th grade, so that was pretty young, and I just didn't have any normal skills that most people have growing up, going to school and going to college or whatever it is, any work ethics. And so, let me think. Sorry, you guys. I ended up running away from home a lot, so I wouldn't, I'm sorry. I ended up in a bad situation, in a human trafficking situation, and I blamed myself for it. I actually thought that was the life that I was given, and that's the life that I deserved. I didn't know any different. I didn't know that you weren't supposed to have sex at a young age, that you were supposed to say no to men when they came on to you. That was foreign to me. I didn't even realize that I was in that type of situation. I thought it was normal. And so as I went on, that's kind of where my life took me. So the only way that I knew how to survive was to be able to either sell drugs or sell myself for drugs. And that's a pretty hard life, because you feel ashamed of your past, and you don't even know that you feel ashamed. You just stay in that mentality. You stay in that victim mentality. All throughout the whole time while I was growing up, I was spiritually tortured. I saw demons, I saw spirits, and they kept me from sleeping. So that was another part of not even just the addiction, but the spiritual warfare that I was going through. And when I was 17 years old, my life, I honestly, I can't even pinpoint memories. It's just now I'm starting to have suppressed memories come up. I know that I was abused ritually while I was growing up, and I was in denial about all that for a long time, until probably just recently. I forgot to mention my sobriety date is October 20th, 2014 is the day that God saved me from myself. But anyways, when I was 17 years old, I was hanging out with a few friends of mine and my brother, and we kind of got, there was a drive-by shooting, and one of my best friends ended up getting shot and killed right in front of me and my brother. And I knew that I had to get away from that lifestyle. And I moved away from Miami, and I came here to Naples, which, I thought that, changing where you live would change things, but you're always wherever you go, right? And things did kind of calm down when I came over to Naples, for a little bit, not for very long. Once 17 years old, all I knew was the streets and just hustling and doing things that most 17-year-olds shouldn't be doing. Then I ended up meeting my kid's dad, and I was very young. He was a little bit older, but there goes that mentality of always having to have a man there to take care of me or whatever it was. I thought this was my saving grace, whatever. And we ended up moving back to Miami and just got involved in the whole lifestyle again and started selling drugs and back into just the criminal mentality and the criminal living. And during this time, I ended up, when I was 20 years old, I got pregnant with my first daughter. And then soon after I had my first daughter, I was a week, I had just turned 21 years old. And then I got pregnant again and had my second child. And then not even a year later, I got pregnant again and had my third child. And by this time, I hadn't even realized, but I was in a very controlled relationship. I was not allowed to do anything. I was not allowed to go anywhere. And it started becoming controlling and abusive at the same time, and it just crept up on me. And here I was, 23 years old, 3 children, and no skills at all to be able to survive on my own. So I still had, that weight on me where, what am I going to do? One day things got pretty bad with my kid's dad, and he ended up beating me up in front of my kids, and I knew in my heart that was it, that I was done. I ended up escaping, actually, in the middle of the night with my children, and ended up going into the shelter for abused women. And there, I tried to keep it together as much as I could. I got a job, and I was trying to survive with no help. So I quickly reverted to the criminal lifestyle. I could make a lot more money by selling drugs or stealing or whatever it was that I did. It was more money than working and actually earning my money. So I pretty much scathed through for a few years, just living in that chaos, and here I was putting my children in the same chaos that I came through, and mentally in my head, I thought, well, I'm not exposing them to, the sexual aspect of it, but I still had them in the criminal aspect of it and the drugs. So same thing, I was just being a hypocrite, I guess. And so, during all that time, I'd get arrested. My kids would end up going with somebody in my family, and I would get out and I would pick my kids back up, and I would keep on doing what I was doing until finally, I think it was 4 years before I got sober, I ended up losing my children. And that was just crushing to me, because I knew I had a great relationship with my children, even though I was in full addiction and the lifestyle that I was leaving. I tried to shelter my kids. I did things with them that my parents wouldn't do with me, spend time and have a relationship with them. And they were my best friends. I didn't really have anybody in the world that I can trust. My favorite saying was, when somebody would say, trust me, I say, I don't even trust my own mother. Why would I even trust you? So I knew that with my children, I would always be able to trust them and have them as, my best friends. When I ended up losing them, I spiraled out of control even worse, because now I had nothing. I felt I had nothing to live for, and it's that mentality that the devil gives us, right, to keep us in our sickness. And I knew, I later found out that it was all lies, obviously, but I stayed in that mentality for 4 years, and I definitely milked it. I had, not only did I have the excuse of the trauma that I went through growing up, I had the excuse of the trauma of being abused by it was just that victim mentality. When you have that victim mentality, you become a victim, and that's just the way it is. It's just your mentality. And so I ended up in jail. I didn't care. I slept in the woods. I was homeless and a drug addict. And I didn't even talk to my children. My children ended up in foster care. And I thought it was the end. I honestly was hoping. When I would party with people, I would tell them, if I die, please just get rid of my body. I don't want anybody to know how I died. And so that's where I was headed. And I one night, and I know that God saved me from myself when I wouldn't even without any help from me. I was sitting in a dope hole in the middle of the night. I think it was like 4:30 in the morning on a Sunday, and I had this just crazy, overwhelming feeling and anxiety that I needed to get up and go. Let me fast forward, let me rewind really quick. I had gone to jail, and I should have gone to prison. I really should have gone to prison for what I did, and God spared me from that. I ended up doing 7 months in the county, and I got out with no paper. And I knew God had been putting it in my heart that I needed to get away from this lifestyle, that there was something better. And those little moments of truth that He gave me while I was out there. And when I got out that time, I swore to myself that I wasn't going to use anymore. And us addicts, we say we don't want to do it no more, and we believe it because we don't want to do it anymore. But we can't help it. We just keep going out and doing the same thing. So I got out of jail, and I was sober for probably a week. And within 3 weeks, I was homeless and back in the dope hole. And now we're back to that night. So I was sitting around my regular using friends, and just this overwhelming anxiety came over me. Like, what am I doing? I looked around and I was like, what is my life come to? Like, I don't even have anywhere to go sleep tonight, but I'm worried about getting high. And that's the only thing that I was worried about. And I tried to ignore that feeling, kept getting high, but the feeling kept getting stronger and stronger, to the point where I got up. I still had drugs on me. I ended up giving my drugs away to somebody that I was there with, and I walked out. And I was actually in Naples Manor, and my thought was, I'm going to walk to the fire station, and I'm going to tell somebody there that I'm suicidal, that I want to kill myself. Crazy thoughts, but hey, I was high, right? And so I started walking to the fire station, and when I got there, there was nobody there. I started knocking on doors, nothing. So, hey, I'm going back to the dope house. I turned around, started walking back towards the dope hole, and the feeling came back to me. No, you can't. Go in the gas station, and tell them you want to hurt yourself. Now, mind you, I didn't want to hurt myself, but I didn't know how to ask for help. And I feel that was my only way of asking for help. And so I went into the gas station, and it took a little convincing for the guy to call the police in the middle of the night. He probably looked took one look at me and thought I was high off my rockers and hoped that I would just leave. But thank God, finally, he ended up calling the police. And I ended up, going outside and just, waiting for the cops. I was crying. I didn't know what I was doing. God did. But the first policeman on the scene was actually one that I was well known with. And he came up to me, and the first thing he said to me was, "Are you finally done?" And I looked at him, and I knew, yeah, I was finally done. He ended up taking me into David Lawrence, and Baker acted me. And I slept probably for a few days. And when I finally came to out of my drug coma, I told the doctors that I really wasn't suicidal. I was just an addict, and I needed help, and I didn't know how to ask for it. So they ended up putting me into the detox center and offered me the 28-day program that they offer there. And I told them I needed more, that that wasn't enough for me. So they offered me Justin's Place recovery program. Now, flashback to when I was using, I had run into one of my friends at a gas station, one of my using friends, and he looked healthy, he looked sober, and he was so excited to see me and tell me all about this program that he had joined and how he had found God, and that his life was so much better. And he was telling me about Justin's Place. And I remember clear as day, the moment that they told me the name of the program, that I looked at him and I was like, well, that's awesome for you, buddy, but I'm not ready, And I just, when they offered me Justin's Place, that memory came to me. So it was that seed that my friend had planted into me. Now it was growing, right? And God was watering it. And so I ended up signing up for the program, did the assessment and everything. And when I was going through the program, the women actually lived right behind the Tree of Life Church, which is on Shadowlawn, and that is my using area. So I was like, great, here I am, right smack in the middle of where I used to get high. And now looking back, I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that I was able to tackle my, the things that haunted me while I was safe with people that loved me and cared for me. And I learned the skills that I needed to be able to talk to people when I did have triggers come up. And a lot of them came up, believe me. I saw a lot of friends drive by or even walking by, and just staying strong in God, God walking me through it, because that's what it was. It was God preparing me. I think God was done waiting for me. He was done waiting for me to have my own will, and he just took matters into his own hands, is the only way that I can describe it. I look back to that day where I was, where I walked out of that dope hole, and I picture God grabbing me by my ear and pulling me out of there like you would a child, because that's the way it feels, right? And it was for my own good. I love that. So I, going through the program, once I got to the phase where I can start thinking about getting my children back, I went to put in the paperwork to reopen my case with DCF. I hadn't seen my kids in 4 years. They were in the system for 4 years. And so I put in the paperwork to the courthouse, along with another girl that was in the same phase with me in the program. And we put in the paperwork, and she heard back from the courts about a week later, and I didn't. And she started going through the process of, starting her case plan and being able to work her case plan. And I wasn't hearing back from anybody. And, a week went by, 2 weeks went by. 3 weeks went by, and I started getting worried. The enemy started putting doubts in my head. Like maybe I'm not meant to get my children back. Maybe they're better where they're at. And all those lies that the devil tries to convince us of. And but so finally I called one of the supervisors at DCF, and I was like, hey, what's going on? I haven't heard from you guys, and I put in the paperwork to reopen my case, and she didn't have really good news for me. She said, well, at this point, the only chance you would have at getting your children back is if the people that have your children write the judge and say they no longer want your children in their home. Oh, that was crushing. That just absolutely crushed me. And I remember being so ashamed of that. I didn't even want to talk to anybody about it. I told 2 people, which were staff members, and we prayed about it. And I went back to the houses and just felt defeated. And God is God of miracles. He restoration, and a week later I ended up getting a letter in the mail, and the letter was a copy of a letter that the people that had my children wrote to the judge, saying my children were just acting up, and they couldn't handle them, and they wanted them removed from their home, which is another God moment for me. That in itself isn't a miracle. I had signed over the rights of my children to the state of Florida while I was sitting in jail. And later I found out that that paperwork was never filed, that those paperwork either got lost or it just was never filed, which is inconceivable. And so I started getting ready, hyperspeed, because I was getting my kids back like now, and I hadn't even graduated the program. So that kind of set a fire under some people in the program, and ended up opening the family track over out in Wolf Apartments. And they made a building over there that's just for children and families that come from the program. And what a testimony in itself that is, right? And so I ended up getting my kids back, and life is amazing. It really is, but it's so hard. I was explaining to David here that I know now why my life I felt so oppressed, and it was the enemy trying to convince me of that my whole life. He knew the potential that I had in me to expose him, to tell other people the fire that I would have in my soul once I had God in my heart, to help other people and to spread the good news and tell them of the testimony of God's testimony, because it's not my testimony. It's God. I didn't do anything. It's all God. God carried me through all of that, and and He revealed things to me when I was able to handle it. He was even that gentle with me, to where I had suppressed memories of things that happened to me when I was a child, horrific things that that most people can't even think of. I lived through that stuff, and I didn't even remember that. I didn't remember that till way later on in my sobriety. And I know that He revealed those things to me when I was able to deal with them without holding resentment or hate in my heart for my parents or anybody that hurt me as a child. But the way I look at it is the enemy was trying to destroy me from day one. He knew the potential that I had. And I am a huge believer that all addicts have a very important calling in their life that the devil's trying to destroy. And that's why he keeps us in our addiction. And once we realize that that the devil's a liar, you know, there is no stopping us. At least for me, that's the way it is. And I've dedicated my life to talking to people, even when people think I'm crazy. I tell them I'm a Jesus freak or whatever, or I'm a loon for Christ, right? But it is just that. It's a battle between good and evil, and the evil's trying to destroy us. He hates us, you know. He wanted to be like us. He wanted to be us, and he hates the fact that God made us in his image, which is what he wanted. He wanted what we have. We have God's power in us, and he can't stand that. So once we finally wake up and break out of those chains that he puts on us, and start walking with Christ and letting God work through us and help other people, things don't always get easier. It actually gets harder a lot of times. The enemy attacks, but every time he attacks, you just get stronger and stronger in the Lord, and let God guide us. Thank you.
Wow. God bless you for sharing that message. I don't know, if you don't believe that God's working miracles in the world today, maybe you need to rewind this video and listen again. Or check out Sammy last week, or listen to me speak. And like she said, it's not us. It's that God's working in our lives, and we're allowing God to work in our lives. And all we're out here doing is trying to let you know that God loves you, that Jesus has a plan for your life. And obviously, it doesn't matter where you're at in your life. You can be in a dope hole. You can be in a jail cell. As long as you still got breath, man, God's got a plan. Are you going to listen, though, man? We're just out here sowing seeds. God is calling to you right now. He's moving in this group. This group is growing daily, because God's had his hand in it, and he wants to reach out to you through this screen right now and let you know that he loves you, and that he cares about you, and that there's people in this group. We can come together and we can do his work. I'm a Jesus freak too, man, because I've been set free. I ain't doing heroin no more. I ain't going to the bottle every day. I'm fulfilled because I have Jesus Christ in my heart. And I got friends like this that will come up here on a Tuesday night and get on a Facebook video and share that love, because Jesus is real, y'all. And he's inviting you right now. I love everybody in this group. I love the people that are watching it live, people that are going to watch it later. I'm letting you know the Holy Spirit is moving right here. Please reach out to us. If you know anyone else that has a testimony that would like to share, please let us know. Because God's working all over the world, and we're just his soldiers out here doing his battle. Thank you so much for watching. We'll check you out. Have a great night. We love y'all.